Around the world, the winds tell incredible stories. From the dry berg winds of South Africa to the warm Chinooks of North America, local winds shape our weather, landscapes, and daily lives. Each local wind has a unique personality. Some cool the scorching deserts, some bring storms across oceans, while others dry the fields or bring much-needed rains. In this video, we'll journey across continents, discovering how local winds like the Mistral, the Pampero, the Sirocco, and many more are born, and how they transform the regions they touch. Get ready to explore the fascinating world of local winds, one breeze at a time. Berg wind, a hot, dry katabatic wind descending from South Africa's interior plateau down the Great Escarpment toward the coast during winter, rapidly drying vegetation and increasing the risk of wildfires. Cape Doctor, a strong southeasterly sweep across Cape Town in spring and summer, clearing pollution, cooling the region, and occasionally causing discomfort with its force. Haboob, a violent dust or sandstorm common in arid regions like Sudan, triggered by collapsing thunderstorms and producing blinding clouds, fierce winds, sudden cooling, and drastically reduced visibility. Harmattan, a dry, dusty northeasterly trade wind blowing from the Sahara to the Gulf of Guinea during winter, bringing fine dust, hazy skies, low humidity, and often worsening respiratory conditions while limiting visibility. Khamsin, a scorching, dust-laden wind sweeping across North Africa and the Middle East, related to the Ghibli in Libya, the Sirocco in the Sahara, and the Samum in Arabia, all marked by extreme heat and suspended dust. Siocantimo, a vigorous south wind striking Madagascar's southwestern coast during the dry season, stirring up dust, roughening seas, and disrupting fishing and maritime activities. Karaburan, a fierce katabatic wind affecting Central Asia during spring and winter, often called a power storm for its abrupt temperature drops, strong gusts, and widespread dust storms. Khazri, a cold, gusty northwesterly blowing across the Caspian Sea, notably impacting northern Azerbaijan with gale-force winds that sharply lower temperatures and disrupt urban and maritime operations. Sukhoi, a searing summer wind crossing the steppes, semi-deserts, and deserts of Kazakhstan and neighboring areas, intensifying droughts by accelerating evaporation and drying vegetation and soil. Buran or Purga, an icy wind sweeping across the steppes of eastern Asia, creating severe blizzards when laden with snow and, known as Purga over tundra regions, sharply reducing visibility and disrupting daily life. Karakaze, a cold and strong mountain wind from Japan's Gunma Prefecture, descending from the mountains to bring clear weather but often causing damage due to its strength, especially in winter. East Asian monsoon, a seasonal wind system affecting East Asia, bringing warm, moist air northward in spring and summer, resulting in prolonged rains, Meiyu in China and Taiwan, Jangma in Korea, Suyu in Japan, and retreating south in autumn. Oroshi, a strong, cold katabatic wind in Japan flowing down from mountainous regions, particularly over the Kanto Plain, most common in winter and causing rapid temperature drops and gusty conditions. Barguzin wind, a steady and strong east wind blowing along Lake Baikal in Russia, typically flowing from the Barguzin Valley, is important for regional navigation, fishing, and local weather systems. Sama, a cold and gusty wind blows over Lake Baikal's western shores, originating in the Sama River Valley, reaching very high speeds and contributing to the formation of large waves on the lake. Amihan, the cool, dry northeast monsoon wind that prevails in the Philippines from November to April, bringing lower temperatures, clear skies, and calmer seas, making it favorable for agriculture and tourism. Habagat, the warm, moist southwesterly monsoon dominating the Philippines from June to October, bringing heavy rains, high humidity, and typhoons, crucial for the region's rainy season and agricultural cycle. Elephanta, a strong southerly or southeasterly wind affecting the Malabar coast of India, most common during the monsoon season, plays a role in the seasonal weather patterns of the western coastline. Nor'wester or Kalbaisakhi, violent pre-monsoon thunderstorms occurring in eastern India and Bangladesh, bringing brief but intense rain, hail, and winds, offering relief from summer heat but sometimes causing localized damage. Kali Andi, intense dust squalls occur in northwestern India before the monsoon, often accompanied by lightning and thunder, creating sudden dark skies and strong gusts that disrupt daily life. Lu, a scorching, dry wind blowing across northern India and Pakistan during late spring and early summer, with temperatures soaring above 45 degrees Celsius, capable of causing heat stroke and desiccation of crops and vegetation. Mango showers, pre-monsoon thunderstorms occurring in southern India, particularly in Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu, typically in March and April, help ripen mangoes and other seasonal fruits. Williwaw, a warm and moist south wind blowing over the Absheron Peninsula in Azerbaijan, moderating the cold temperatures of winter and contributing to the region's unique microclimate. Nashi, a dry, cool northeasterly wind affecting the Iranian coast along the Persian Gulf and the Makran region, occurring during winter and early spring, often bringing clear skies and lower humidity. Rishabah, a fierce, black wind in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, particularly around Sulaymaniyah, carrying thick dust that significantly reduces visibility, sometimes darkening the sky and disrupting travel. Shamal, a dry, northwesterly wind blowing over Iraq and the Persian Gulf states, especially in summer, bringing intense dust storms and high winds that affect daily life and air quality. Sharki, a hot, dry, and dusty wind blowing from the southeast across the Middle East, typically occurring in spring and autumn, carrying fine dust particles and sometimes triggering sandstorms. Samum, an extremely hot and dry desert wind in the Middle East, especially in Israel, Jordan, and Arabia, capable of rapidly rising temperatures and notorious for its suffocating heat and dust. Wind of 120 days, a persistent, hot, and dry summer wind affecting the Sistan Basin in Iran and parts of Afghanistan for about 4 months, causing blowing dust, sand erosion, and difficult living conditions. Eliseo, the easterly trade winds experienced in the Caribbean help regulate temperatures, support sailing routes, and influence the climate of island nations across the region. Elise, a steady northeasterly trade wind blowing across Central America and the Caribbean, bringing moist maritime air, moderating temperatures, and influencing regional weather patterns, playing a key role in tropical climate systems and historical transatlantic navigation. Bayamo, a violent, gusty wind affecting the southern coast of Cuba, particularly near the town of Bayamo, often arising suddenly during thunderstorms, and historically a hazard to sailors due to its strength and unpredictability. Brisote, an intensified northeast trade wind affecting Cuba when blowing with unusual strength, bringing cooler, drier conditions, especially in winter, and influencing weather systems over the Caribbean and adjacent seas. Cordonazo de San Francisco, a strong southerly hurricane wind affecting Mexico's western coast, historically occurring around the Feast of St. Francis, October 4th, associated with late-season tropical storms bringing heavy rains, strong gusts, and coastal hazards. Coromule, a local south to southwest wind occurring in the evenings in the La Paz area of Baja California and the Gulf of California, resulting from temperature contrasts between land and sea, offering relief from daytime heat. Norte, a strong, cold northeasterly wind sweeping across eastern Mexico during winter, often following cold fronts from the United States, causing sharp temperature drops, rough seas in the Gulf of Mexico, and disrupted maritime activity. Papagayo, a periodic wind blowing from the Caribbean across Nicaragua and Costa Rica to the Gulf of Papagayo, triggered by pressure differences, channeling through mountain gaps and bringing dry, strong gusts, especially during the winter dry season. Tehuantepec, Tehuano wind, a powerful gap wind blowing across Mexico's Isthmus of Tehuantepec into the Gulf of Tehuantepec, originating from high-pressure systems over North America and capable of reaching gale force, significantly affecting shipping and regional weather. Abrolhos, a squall-prone wind system near the Abrolhos Islands off Brazil's southeastern coast, typically occurring during the southern hemisphere winter, brings stormy weather, rough seas, and rapid wind changes, posing risks for navigation and fishing. Cardew, a strong, stormy northwesterly wind reported along Brazil's Atlantic coast, known for its sudden gusts and heavy rain, often signaling approaching low-pressure systems and disrupting marine activities. Nordeste, a moderate wind from the northwest affecting northeastern Brazil, associated with the South Atlantic trade winds and influencing rainfall patterns, especially during the dry and transition seasons. Carpinteiro, a strong southeasterly wind blowing along Brazil's southern Atlantic coast, typically occurring during the passage of frontal systems and potentially leading to coastal erosion and choppy seas. Garua or Garoa, a dry coastal wind affecting the lower western slopes of the Andes, particularly in Peru and northern Chile, contributing to persistent mist or drizzle, Garua, in desert regions despite low overall precipitation. Zonda wind, a warm, dry Föhn-like wind descending the eastern slopes of the Andes in Argentina, causing sudden temperature rises, low humidity, and strong gusts, often exacerbating fire risks and triggering health issues like headaches. Pampero, a strong, cold wind blowing from the south or southwest across the Pampa region of Argentina and Uruguay, often following a cold front and bringing thunderstorms, temperature drops, and clear skies afterwards. Puelche, a dry, warm wind descending the western slopes of the Andes in south-central Chile, occurring mainly in winter, with Föhn-like characteristics that can rapidly increase temperatures while reducing humidity. Sudestada, a strong southeasterly wind blowing along the coasts of Argentina and Uruguay, causing heavy rains, storm surges, and flooding, particularly around the Rio de la Plata estuary, and is common in winter and spring. Williwaw, a sudden, violent wind descending from coastal mountains in places like the Strait of Magellan, the Aleutian Islands, and the fjords of Alaska, cold and unpredictable, hazardous to maritime activity, especially in polar regions. Alberta Clipper, a fast-moving, cold, low-pressure system originating in Alberta, Canada, sweeping southeastward across the central U.S., bringing strong winds, snow, and rapid temperature drops, especially in winter. Brookings effect or Chetco effect, a local offshore wind along southwestern Oregon caused by warm downslope airflow from the Chetco River Valley, creating unusually high coastal temperatures near Brookings, often 20 degrees Celsius higher than surrounding areas. Chinook, a warm, dry westerly wind descending the eastern slopes of the Rocky Mountains in North America, known as a snow eater, for rapidly rising temperatures and melting snow in winter, significantly affecting the local climate. Diablo wind, a hot, dry offshore wind from the northeast in California's San Francisco Bay Area, typically occurring in autumn, lowering humidity and raising fire danger due to its strong gusts and high temperatures. The hawk, a colloquial term for a bitterly cold wind in Chicago, especially in winter, known for its cutting chill and often linked to Arctic air masses sweeping across the Great Lakes region. Jarbo Gap wind, a katabatic wind from the northern Sierra Nevada, particularly near Jarbo Gap in California, often intensifies wildfires due to strong, dry gusts and is associated with regional wind systems like the Diablo winds. Montreal Express, a regional term for a fast-moving Arctic air mass sweeping across New England and southeastern Canada, causing sharp temperature drops, biting winds, and often snow during winter months. Nijikyu, a strong easterly wind occurring in Greenland, cold and persistent, contributing to coastal weather patterns, sea ice movement, and difficult navigation in the region. Nor'easter, a powerful storm system along the U.S. northeastern Atlantic Canada, with winds from the northeast, bringing heavy snow or rain, coastal flooding, and strong winds, especially in winter and early spring. Texas Norther or Blue Norther, a fast-moving Arctic cold front in Texas during winter, marked by sharp temperature drops, strong winds, and sometimes a blue-black sky, often bringing freezing precipitation and known for its sudden, dramatic arrival. Piteraq, a fierce katabatic wind descending from Greenland's ice cap to the eastern coast, extremely cold and powerful, capable of reaching hurricane strength, causing dangerous conditions in settlements like Tasiilaq. Squamish, a strong, cold outflow wind blowing from the interior valleys of British Columbia through mountain passes toward the Pacific coast, most notable in the town of Squamish, bringing clear skies, gusty conditions, and rapid temperature drops in winter. Santa Ana wind, a hot, dry, and strong offshore wind blowing from inland deserts toward the coast of Southern California, most common in autumn, lowering humidity, raising temperatures, and greatly increasing wildfire risk. Sundowner wind, a hot, dry wind blowing downslope from the Santa Ynez Mountains toward the coast near Santa Barbara, California, typically occurring in the evening, similar to the Santa Ana wind, and can exacerbate fire conditions. Anabatic wind, an upslope wind caused by daytime heating of mountain slopes, drawing air upward from valleys. Common in mountainous regions, it can lead to cloud formation and localized precipitation, especially during warm afternoons. Katabatic wind, a downslope wind caused by the cooling of air on elevated surfaces like glaciers or mountains. The cold, dense air descends into valleys, often creating strong gusts, common in Antarctica, Greenland, and alpine regions. Föhn, a warm, dry wind descending the leeward side of mountains, especially the Alps, resulting from moist air rising, condensing, and losing moisture on the windward side. Known for rapid warming, snowmelt, and occasionally causing headaches or restlessness. Ghibli, a hot, dry, dusty wind from the Sahara affecting Libya, especially during spring and early summer. It resembles other desert winds like the Sirocco and can reduce visibility, increase temperatures, and cause respiratory discomfort. Gregale, a strong, cool northeasterly wind blowing across the central Mediterranean, especially affecting Malta and southern Italy, most frequent in winter and often resulting from high pressure over the Balkans and low pressure over the Ionian Sea. Khamsin, a hot, dry, dusty wind blowing from the south or southeast across Egypt and the eastern Mediterranean, typically occurring in spring, reducing visibility, raising temperatures, and sometimes causing sandstorms and health discomfort. Leveche, a hot, dry wind blowing across southeastern Spain from the southwest, originating in the Sahara, often carrying dust and sharply rising temperatures, common before the arrival of a low-pressure system in the western Mediterranean. Lebeche, a warm, moist southwesterly wind blowing across the western Mediterranean Sea, bringing clouds, rain, and rough seas to coastal regions of Italy, Corsica, and Sardinia. It's associated with cyclonic weather patterns and low-pressure systems. Marin, a warm, moist wind blowing inland from the Mediterranean Sea across southern France, particularly in the Languedoc region, bringing overcast skies, rain, and humid conditions, especially when associated with low-pressure systems. Mistral, a cold, dry, northerly wind blowing through the Rhône Valley into southern France and the Mediterranean, strongest in winter and spring, bringing clear skies but often gale-force gusts, significantly influencing local climate and agriculture. Ostro, a warm, moist southerly wind blowing over the central Mediterranean, often bringing rain and humidity, originating from tropical air masses and associated with cyclonic disturbances over the region. Ponente, a gentle, moist westerly wind affecting the western Mediterranean, especially Italy, bringing mild temperatures and moderate rainfall, most noticeable during transitional seasons like spring and autumn. Sirocco, a hot, dry wind originating in the Sahara and blowing across the Mediterranean into southern Europe, carrying dust, raising temperatures, and causing hazy skies and discomfort. When it picks up moisture over the sea, it can bring rain. Tramontane, a strong, cold northerly or northwesterly wind blowing from the Alps toward the Mediterranean, particularly in southern France and northeastern Spain, similar to the Mistral, often dry, gusty, and persistent. Bora, a cold, dry, gusty wind descending from the Dinaric Alps onto the Adriatic coast, especially in Croatia and Slovenia, occurring in winter and early spring, bringing clear skies but dangerously strong gusts that affect sea travel. Levante, a moist easterly wind blowing through the Strait of Gibraltar into southern Spain, often bringing overcast skies, fog, and drizzle, especially in summer, playing a key role in the unique microclimate of Gibraltar. Meltemi, Etesian wind, a dry, northerly wind blowing across the Aegean Sea during summer, providing relief from the heat but reaching gale force, affecting sailing and ferry routes, caused by pressure differences between the Balkans and the eastern Mediterranean. Harmattan, a dry, dusty northeasterly trade wind blowing from the Sahara across West Africa to the Gulf of Guinea, most active from November to March, reducing humidity and visibility, often causing haze and respiratory discomfort. Nor'wester, New Zealand, a warm, dry, Föhn-type wind blowing eastward over New Zealand's southern Alps, causing rapid temperature rises and strong gusts in Canterbury, creating a distinctive cloud arch and triggering headaches and stress in sensitive individuals. Zonda, a hot, dry, Föhn-like wind descending the eastern slopes of the Andes in Argentina, common in winter and spring, raising temperatures and lowering humidity, increasing wildfire risks and sometimes causing health issues like irritability and headaches. Norte, a cold, strong wind blowing from the north or northeast along the Gulf of Mexico, particularly affecting eastern Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula, typically following a cold front and bringing lower temperatures, rough seas, and occasionally heavy rainfall. Papagayo wind, a strong gap wind blowing through mountain passes in Central America, especially across Nicaragua into the Pacific Ocean, strongest in winter, caused by high pressure over the Gulf of Mexico interacting with low pressure in the Pacific. Tehuano, a strong, gusty wind blowing from the Gulf of Mexico through Mexico's Isthmus of Tehuantepec into the Pacific Ocean, often reaching gale or storm force, resulting from cold air outbreaks funneling through the narrow land corridor. Buran, a bitterly cold, northeasterly or easterly wind blowing across Russia and Central Asia, bringing blizzards and extreme cold in winter and dry, dusty conditions in summer, associated with Siberian high-pressure systems. Aegean breeze, a seasonal summer wind blowing from the north across the Aegean Sea, similar to the Meltemi, bringing cooler, drier air and stabilizing weather, providing relief from heat but occasionally causing hazardous sailing conditions. Black blizzard, a name given to the severe dust storms that swept across the Great Plains of the United States during the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, driven by strong winds and drought, causing zero visibility and widespread agricultural devastation. Chinook arch wind, a variation of the Chinook wind in Canada, accompanied by a distinctive arch-shaped cloud over the Rocky Mountains, signaling the arrival of warm, dry air and often causing sudden temperature increases, snowmelt, and gusty conditions. Typhoon winds, powerful cyclonic winds associated with typhoons in the western Pacific Ocean, spiraling around a low-pressure center and exceeding 200 km per hour, causing severe damage, storm surges, and torrential rainfall upon landfall. Cyclone winds, Indian Ocean, spiral winds circulating low-pressure centers in tropical cyclones over the Indian Ocean, rotating clockwise or anti-clockwise depending on the hemisphere, causing heavy rains, strong gusts, and storm surges in coastal areas. Haboob, a type of intense dust storm carried by strong downdrafts from thunderstorms, mostly in arid regions like Sudan, the Sahara, or the southwestern United States, causing sudden darkness, poor visibility, and respiratory problems. Blizzards, blizzard winds, strong, sustained winds exceeding 35 miles per hour, 56 kilometers per hour, accompanied by blowing or falling snow drastically reduce visibility for extended periods. Common in polar and mid-latitude regions, blizzards pose serious hazards to travel and outdoor activity. Typhoon eye wall winds, the most destructive winds in a typhoon, located in the eye wall surrounding the calm center. These winds are extremely powerful and are responsible for the majority of wind damage during typhoon landfall, often accompanied by torrential rain. Coastal breeze, sea and land breeze, daily wind patterns caused by temperature differences between land and sea. During the day, sea breezes bring cooler air inland. At night, land breezes push cooler air out to sea. These breezes moderate coastal temperatures and influence local weather. Fremantle Doctor, a cooling sea breeze arriving most summer afternoons in Perth, Western Australia. It originates over the Indian Ocean and provides relief from high daytime temperatures, often strengthening by late afternoon and moderating the region's otherwise intense summer heat. Augusta wind, a local, strong wind occurring in the Augusta region of Western Australia, typically associated with coastal pressure gradients and may reach gale force, affecting marine conditions and recreational activities along the southwest coast. Southerly Buster, a dramatic, fast-moving cold front in southeastern Australia, particularly along the New South Wales coast, bringing a sudden drop in temperature, strong gusty southerly winds, and sometimes thunderstorms, often following a hot day in Sydney or the surrounding areas. Santana wind, a less common variant of the Santa Ana winds in California, sometimes used interchangeably. It refers to hot, dry winds descending from inland deserts toward the coast, increasing fire risk and reducing humidity in Southern California. Sundowner wind, a warm, downslope wind affecting the Santa Barbara coast of California. It typically occurs in the evening when high-pressure inland causes air to descend over coastal mountains. It intensifies wildfire danger due to its dryness and sudden onset. Mountain breeze, a nightly downslope wind caused by the cooling of mountain slopes after sunset. Dense, cool air flows down valleys, often resulting in temperature inversions. These breezes are common in mountainous regions and contribute to local diurnal wind cycles. Valley breeze, a daytime upslope wind occurs when the sun heats valley floors, causing warm air to rise along mountain slopes. It is part of the mountain-valley wind system and often leads to cumulus cloud development over high terrain. Glacier wind, a local katabatic wind descending from glaciers due to the gravitational flow of dense, cold air. These winds are strongest during clear nights and can be very cold and persistent, especially near large ice fields or glacial valleys. Gap wind, strong winds funneled through mountain passes or narrow valleys, increasing in speed due to the constriction. Examples include the Papagayo and Tehuano winds. Gap winds can reach gale force and significantly affect local weather and maritime conditions. From the freezing Boran of Siberia to the fiery Lu of India, local winds remind us that nature is always in motion. These winds are more than just weather patterns. They are the breath of the earth, shaping cultures, ecosystems, and histories. Next time you feel the breeze, think about the incredible journey it might have taken.